That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home, which, as you know, is another Spider-Man movie. It's the third, directed by Jon Watts, starring Tom Holland as this generation's Spider-Man, I guess.
Peter Parker. Yeah.
It's being released by Sony Pictures Releasing finally after many, many delays, December 17th, 2021.
We are releasing this video the day it comes out because it's spoiler heavy.
And boy, did we get messages about not spoiling.
They took our phone before we went to the screening room. They did metal detector, took our bags. So
we had to do a metal detector even if you left to pee. And then the main cast members and Jamie Foxx, who we're told is a spoiler, even though he's on the poster, I think,
had a message before the film not to spoil.
Not to spoil the
integrity of this wholly original conceptual film that is not like anything apparently you've ever seen before, with any kind of characters that you're completely familiar with if you're taking the time to watch this film.
Oh, good. Okay.
Sorry.
So,
I mean, abandon hope all ye who enter here. I'm not a fan of the Marvel Universe overall, and I'm more in line with thinking what Alejandro G. Inarritu said, is that these superhero films and our cultural obsession with them is cultural genocide. But
well, I think people are allowed to enjoy what they enjoy. I did enjoy this film well enough. Okay, so the story is complicated as hell.
It isn't, but it's made.
It isn't, but it is. And I'm going to try to tell it quickly. So from the last film, we know that Doctor Strange, that's his name?
Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch. Mm-hmm. And Spider-Man defeated Mysterio.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay, so the opening of this film, we see that Mysterio has revealed Spider-Man's identity to be Peter Parker. So now the world knows Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and it's a problem because, like, half of the people think Spider-Man's a hero, the other half thinks he's like a nuisance. Okay. Oh my gosh. So that obviously has its problems, but the film is focusing on the fact that Peter Parker, along with his girlfriend MJ, played by Zendaya, mm-hmm. and his best friend Ned, played by
Jacob Batalon.
And then, of course, Peter Parker is Tom Holland. They all want to attend MIT together after they finish high school. But they don't get accepted because of all the controversy surrounding Peter Parker.
And I can't believe that they are told that in their
declination letters. So Peter feels bad. So he goes to Doctor Strange and asks for help. And they decide that, well, we could erase everyone's memory of Spider-Man so that your friends aren't affected. And Peter says, great, let's do it. So as Doctor Strange is casting this very elaborate spell, Peter says, but wait, I want my girlfriend to remember me. Okay, well, let's take that shit out. Okay. Oh, no, wait, what about my best friend? Okay, well, wait, what about my aunt? And then because he keeps changing the spell, it gets messed up. So Doctor Strange has to, like, avoid catastrophe and traps the spell into a box. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he says, like, damn you. You messed up my spell. It could have been like a disaster, but luckily I have it in this box. But then we find out that somehow the spell kind of worked, because now we have villains from other universes who are now in Tom Holland's Peter Parker Spider-Man universe.
The multiverse is upon us, yes.
So we have Jamie Foxx's character, the Electric Man. We have Willem Dafoe, who I think he might be my new favorite actor.
I love Willem Dafoe. Yeah.
I think my favorite actor has thus far been Nicolas Cage, but I think I'm swapping him out for Willem Dafoe.
Wow.
I really like Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, you give him glowing reviews for Nightmare Alley, which also comes out the same day as this.
Yeah, I really like him. Maybe we can meet someday. Okay, Jamie Foxx is in the universe now. Willem Dafoe's the Green Goblin.
Rhys Ifans is the Lizard Man.
The Lizard Man. Who's the Dirt Man?
Thomas Hayden Church.
And then the Octopus Man.
Doc Ock is Alfred Molina, who has been de-aged.
So those five are back in the universe and causing problems. So Doctor Strange is like, oh, well, this box has a reset button on it, conveniently. And if I press this button, everyone will just go back to wherever the hell they came from. But Spider-Man says, no, we need to save them. We'll get into this because I just think this whole premise is so out of control to me, meaning stupid. But Instead of just setting everything back to the way it was, Peter Parker wants to fix everyone. And this is like 45 minutes into a 2-hour, 40-minute film. So we know this shit's not going to work out. So Peter, like there's a montage of him, and Dr. Ock is the first one to get fixed, and it works. So then he moves on to Jamie Foxx and then Willem Dafoe's character. But then they decide like, no, this is what makes us great. Like we're not going to change. So there's like a backlash and a big attack. So now the bulk of the film is Peter Parker needing to, or Spider-Man needing to like rein in these bad guys. But the gag is the alternate Spider-Man come into Tom Holland's universe. So we have Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Mm-hmm. So now these 3 Spider-Man are going to assist in defeating the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And they're successful. But in the end, well, they're not successful because they are successful in defeating the bad guys, and they also are successful in changing them. So they heal everyone, so they're back to their normal selves and no longer bad, which we need to get into.
For the most part, yeah.
We need to get into that. But Doctor Strange shows up, and we see that like the rest of like the multiverse is going to invade Tom Holland's Peter Parker's universe. So he says the only way to fix this is if we erase everyone's memory of Peter Parker, Tom Holland. And Tom Holland agrees, but that means that everyone who knew him will forget about him, which was what he was trying to do in the beginning of the movie. So Doctor Strange does it, and then the final scene of the film is, now that everything's back to normal, Peter Parker goes to MJ's job, and she doesn't recognize him. So we get the sense that he's going to build back his relationship with her. The end. Then there's an after credits sequence where we see Tom Hardy
as Venom.
And Venom at a bar in a really nonsensical scene to me because I'm not fully aware of that universe. But I didn't understand the words that were coming out of his mouth. I really didn't understand what he was talking about. And I don't know that had I watched the last Venom movie, I would have understood. He's just talking gibberish. And then he vanishes from he's in a bar in Mexico somewhere talking to a very interesting looking bartender. That was a choice. And then he vanishes, and then we see a little bit of that black goo on the bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that all relates to something that happens to something and does something. Mm-hmm.
That's it. Okay.
Well, there might have been another after credit sequence we left.
Yeah, we were in that theater a long time, so we left. Okay. I really, really, really like Spider-Man Homecoming. I think of the 3 Spider-Man I'm aware of, Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, I like Tom Holland the best, and I thought Homecoming was a really cute movie. But this time around,
I will concede that yes, compared to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, I thought was in his 2, because Tobey did it 3 times. In his 2, I thought he was incredibly grating and played up that kind of adolescent behavior that Tom Holland is able to kind of quell a little bit. It seems a little more...
People in the screening, because it was a packed theater, were very excited about this film and cheering every scene. So I know people will like this. I think for me, knowing that this is a fantasy land and it's, these DC and Marvel movies, I know that the plots don't necessarily have to make sense because they're supposed to sort of keep everything going. But
At what cost?
I think Doctor Strange in this movie is really annoying because
Well, you didn't like Doctor Strange.
I don't even remember watching that film. You said I hated it.
All you did was gripe.
But based on this movie, I can probably agree that I did. But I hated his motivation. Like, you offer up this solution to this teenage boy who clearly doesn't make good choices. And I know Spider-Man is supposed to be kind of juvenile, so I'm not blaming that. Like, that's part of this character's story. But Doctor Strange is supposed to be so wise and knowledgeable, and then he offers this solution that seems to really not make sense. Then it causes this huge issue, and then in the end, he's like, well, let's just do that thing.
Well, the plot hole is you were making concessions. Granted, they weren't planned out well, and it's the mess that this film ends up being in. But I just don't understand why he gives him time to say goodbye before the universe rips apart, but why he doesn't say, like, okay, I can code these 5 people in as still getting to know you.
Well, the concession you're talking about is in the beginning, he is able to have certain people remember him, Peter Parker, but in the end, he can't. Yeah, I just thought that seemed real flimsy. But for what it is, if you like Marvel movies, if you like Spider-Man, I think you'll like this movie. There's a lot going on. It was very long. It did move along quickly, so I did enjoy that.
What I thought was interesting, I had a hard time getting into this because of all this stuff, especially with Benedict Cumberbatch. I think is completely unlikable as Doctor Strange, and that smart.
Like, is he even a good guy? He doesn't seem like a good guy.
It's very, and then they have this shtick where it's like, call me Steven, call me Sir, based on, you know, his mercurial moods. And it's like, well, that was hard for me to get into, but I did kind of dig the 3 different Spider-Mans coming in and kind of the existential crisis / camaraderie that was there. I think is interesting. And I have seen all of these movies. I don't really like any of them. But there's that nostalgia factor because people were having like a very warm emotional response to almost everything that happened, especially in the 3rd act, part B and C. But what was interesting, Jamie Foxx's character makes some comment to Andrew Garfield because they're the villain hero from those 2 films, and says something about, oh, there's a black Spider-Man out there somewhere. To me, this was the opportunity where, yes, there is more emotional impact because we're familiar with these other actors coming in. But this is also the moment where these writers really could have had a lot of fun with it and pulling in all kinds of... They could have pulled in other Spider-Mans that maybe we'll never see again, but because it's the multiverse... Like, the sky's the limit, right? Like, why don't we have that? Instead, we get this throwaway line, which is the closest thing to subtext any of these things ever come to. I don't know.
I mean, there is a black Spider-Man. It's just a cartoon, but...
Well, right. But again, like, this is the time where why aren't we playing with that? I don't know.
I mean, there are a lot of things this film could have done better, but overall, I did enjoy it enough. If it were on TV, like, if it were streaming on, like, HBO, I would watch it while I'm working or something.
It does look good. It was shot by the cinematographer is Mauro Fiore, who won an Oscar for Avatar, of course, and has done some other very notable things. And there's a lot of people I like here. Here's J.K. Simmons' 5th movie this month. I do like. Oh,
that's right. J.K. Simmons plays a character like the Drudge Report. Like, he's doing this daily thing, and he's really critical of Spider-Man. He thinks Spider-Man's a nuisance. I didn't think that character had much to do, but
no, I do like Marissa Tomei, who's Aunt May in this. Universe.
She does die up in this movie.
But then she does this thing because she works like helping feed the homeless, and how everything gets connected is Willem Dafoe seeks her out because, you know, he's got his split personalities or whatever, and she's the one that tells Peter Parker that, you know, it's with great power comes great responsibility. But I don't really see how that makes it his responsibility to, you know, fix all.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that because I feel like the messaging or like behind a lot of these movies and people's like these heroes' desire to do good doesn't always make sense to me. Like, Doctor Strange explains to Peter Parker that not returning these 5 villains back to wherever the hell they came from could cause disaster, like, to millions of people in this universe. And then Spider-Man says, no, we can help these 5 people. And I just thought, like, that doesn't make any sense. But then even Marissa Tomei's character, Aunt May, she says, like, no, you need to help. Because the Green Goblin goes into her soup kitchen because he's, like, in his sort of depressed phase where the Green Goblin's not awake in his mind. And he wants help. And she says, we have to help him. And it's like, this fool is a supervillain who has killed many, many people. Send his ass back to her. Because then the other issue is, Doctor Strange says, like, they're probably going to die wherever they go back to. They don't explain why.
But I mean, that's how it doesn't quite work as like a metaphor for, you know, immigration, if you will, and just sending people back where they came from. And I get that kind of sentiment, but it doesn't work with these like maniacal supervillains who they think that they can each, you know, come up with this singular antidote for each one of them. But then it's suggesting that if you just take this one thing away,
right? But
then what needs to happen is the same thing needs to be taken away from the superheroes. Like, if Spider-Man was bitten by a spider, then maybe he needs to be cured of that as well, because there's an automatic imbalance.
Well, it's minimizing, because all of these villains we're made to understand have gone through some trauma, and that's what has caused them to behave this way. And then what Spider-Man is doing is saying like, well, if I remove your tentacles from you, or if I make you not a lizard anymore, or I take away this electricity, you'll be good. And it's like, well, that doesn't erase the years of trauma they've experienced.
Right.
Because even Dr. Octopus or whatever, his issue is that his like robotic arms are in control of him. So he hears all these voices and that tell him to do bad things. So Spider-Man replaces his little chip in the back of his head, and now he's in control of his arms, and he says, oh, the voices in my head are gone. I'm so happy now. Like, I don't think that's how that works.
It is not.
But again, this is not meant to be like, you know, a high-level psychiatric profile. You know, it's not a character study. It's just a silly comic book movie.
I think that's where I get irritated at these, you know, a room packed with adults that are cheering at, you know, very rudimentary adolescent-level ideas and a depiction of human behaviors.
Again, I think people should be allowed to enjoy what they enjoy. It doesn't matter how frivolous it is or silly it is. I do agree that it is interesting to watch whole ass adults cheer at things that don't make sense. But, you know, I do too. You know, I love that show, all those shows on Chasing Reality's YouTube page, and that shit doesn't make sense either. So whatever.
Sure, I like B-grade trash things as well. It's just that when you're holding up something that ostensibly is a B movie trash and saying that this is the pinnacle of modern filmmaking, which is, you know, that based on box office success, which is, I think, you know, there's the rub for me. There are a lot of people, as I said, that I like seeing in here. Love Willem Dafoe, like J.B. Smoove, who's in one scene, and
he has a fun little scene.
He's the new principal in this world. I do agree that what Jon Watts does, who's previously directed Clown and Cop Car, and I liked Cop Car with Kevin Bacon, which I know you saw. And he's
with the kids and the thing, yeah.
He's credited with having the first, like, being the director of the first, like, trilogy in this universe, which I guess means that Sam Raimi, who directed the first Spider-Man movie, 3 Spider-Man movies, does that mean they're outside of the Marvel universe? I'm unclear of how he's credited with that when there was first Sam Raimi, who did 3 of these films. Yeah, I don't know. You have to. It's frivolous.
I could be done. What would you give this film?
I think I'm being very fair in giving it 2.5 out of 5.
I would give it 3 out of 5. I would watch it again.
But do you remember, you liked Homecoming from 2017? I know I've seen Far From Home, and I don't remember a lick of it.
Okay, I don't remember anything from Far From Home. But Homecoming, because I was on a cruise and watched it like 10 times. And I just think Tom Holland is such a cute Spider-Man. And I think in this movie, Zendaya, mm-hmm. I know I'm fucking her name up.
Oh, I did like her in this.
I like her much more in this film because she has more to do.
She has more to do, and I like how her line delivery doesn't seem to be kind of as corny as what they give Ned to do.
No, but I do really like their friendship, and I like Ned and Peter Parker's relationship. Sure. So there's a lot to it I like. Yeah, that's all I have. Anything else?
No.
Bye.
Bye.